Ugh, just got my period.
Oh, no way.
Has anyone got a tampon? Oh, it's a big one.
Do they have to be so grotesque about it?
I know. Men wouldn't do that.
Sorry, is there a problem?
No, just something should be spoken about in private, don't you think?
Yeah, I don't think everyone needs to hear about your,
Our natural reproductive system just doing its job.
Something that happens to 50% of the population?
Good morning. I hope you're fine and you had a beautiful night. It's such a beautiful morning. Yeah.
It is. The weather is perfect.
Yeah,
It's not too hot, not too cold. Exactly. It's just flowing great. Breakfast looks good.
It's at the top of it today.
Yeah. So thank you so much for joining Period Equity Africa for this discussion, because you're the change makers and everyone is looking at you as you're also looking at the people, so that we progress towards period equity and justice. But before we go to that, you just tell us who you are and which program you're on as an ambassador. Thank you. You can start with you, Precious.
Oh, okay. My name is Precious Lekgoathi, and I am the HerVoice Fund Ambassador for South Africa. And I'd like to present myself as an SRHR advocate, sexual and reproductive health and rights advocate, and gender equality advocate. Over to you, Millie.
Good morning. My name is Millicent Sethaile. I am the HerVoice Fund Ambassador from Botswana. Based in Botswana. I'm happy to be in Cape Town. And I think when it comes to, I was very passionate about this because when it comes to menstrual health, I have started a business where I'm trying to make sanitary towels, but not reusable sanitary towels, but degradable sanitary towels. Because I think when it comes to economies, those are much cheaper. But we'll delve more into that as we go on. But like this is very close to my heart when it comes to menstrual health and menstrual hygiene. So I'm looking forward to conversations today.
My name is Tshepiso Mosiea and I'm an Inside My Press ambassador. I am based in South Africa, in Bloemfontein, and I'm in the SRHR space by virtue of being affiliated with Inside My Press, because a lot of the work that Inside My Press does is in the SRHR space. However, personally, I have interest in current affairs. So I think that for me, how I interpret it or explain it is that I'm interested in anything that has to do with social justice, particularly inclusivity, and kind of being the voice for the voiceless, as some would say, the marginalized communities. How do we include them in conversations? Because most of the time, I find that the conversations and the dialogues are very important. However, the words and the jargons are quite exclusionary, or the people who we're saying we are trying to advocate for don't always comprehend what it is we're saying. So I'm trying to be that merge. Yeah.
Hi everyone, my name is Y-isha Raphael. I am as well an Inside My Press ambassador from South Africa, also based in Johannesburg. And I think we're all involved in the SRHR space, right? But myself specifically, I put myself forward as an education advocate, so basically advocating for education, or rather sex education for young people, and not just only young women, how we mostly see in the space advocacy for all young women at this table, but for young children, like ages 13 and younger, giving them sex education, SRHR education, and those kinds of things.
Wow, I can say you're all stars in every area that you're working in, and thank you so much for joining us. So I'm Patricia Humura, and I am the lead advisor for Period Equity Africa. So for us, we are really interested in having this conversation. We are early birds, we are ready to go to work, but before we can get there, let's just use our breakfast time to discuss and break down what period inequity means. So anyone can go first, and then we'll see. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to try to
eat your breakfast. We have to go to work.
I think I can start.
Okay.
And then you can expand further.
Yeah.
Period inequity for me is exclusion, economically, in every aspect in terms of like social spaces rather. So a lack of information, a lack of towels, a lack of menstrual related products that you want to use. You know, a lot of the time people are using what they're getting, you know, which is not entirely wrong, but I think it would be great if every menstruating person had the luxury of using the products that they want to use. If every menstruating person had the luxury of disposing the tools that they're using how they would want to use to dispose things. So I think inequity also goes back to things like the sanitation space that there is, or the lack of sanitation around you know, your menstrual products. Not knowing what to do when you have things like infections and all of that. I think for me it constitutes for period inequity, and I think maybe you guys can also expand from those points.
Yeah. Just to add on what you said, we've almost covered everything. It also touches to the fact of the cultural aspect of it that kind of makes you feel like you are inferior, or it makes it portrayed as if you are dirty when you're on your period. It's a shame, you should go and find a place to hide somewhere. For instance, for me, when I'm on my period, I'm not supposed to hand food over to my grandfather. I'm not going to church for like 7 days when I'm on my period. So it's those kind of things. Then you wonder, and you're like, why did I do wrong? What's happening? So it makes you question a lot of things. For instance, you don't even feel comfortable going to the sporting field to play because what if I flood? The guys will be like, and even when we are on our periods, it's like we have created these imaginary things that we are having mood swings. It's just us trying to get attention. But in actual fact, we are also annoyed with ourselves. It's like, what's happening with you, gracious? I mean, like, why are you like this? I don't understand why I'm crying now. What happened here? I'm asking myself the question. So yeah.
Okay, so I think I acknowledge that we are affected differently when we are menstruating. And what happens is, besides getting mood swings, also that social factor, that cultural factor that is coming in. So, but I wanted to know that is it still happening to you? Do you still behave like that, or it's used to happen?
It's still happening. They're not going to check anything about food. Or it's still happening. It's not working. Check food. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. And it's things like that you find that culture and our social backgrounds actually still, even in 2022, affect us. Affect us psychologically, affect us the way in which we do things. Because you can imagine, Rachel is an adult and she's still hindered by things that she knows, even as an educated adult, that these are wrong. Of course, I'm just going through a phase, I'm going through a period, and that's just that. But the way in which we're brought up and how our backgrounds have raised us to be is going to affect also how you interact with other people. So she might see me going to church and I've said I'm on my period, and she's shocked. Like, why? Because those are how we have been taught to socialize. So those really affect, if we look into socialization, if we look into social inequalities, we look into culture inequalities, that they hinder women and adolescent girls in so much ways that we are not even going to be able to discuss all of it.
I think it's also just interesting, hearing the points of view, especially from you, that you, from any part of society, whether you are, a black woman, a white woman, young or old, you really just can't opt out of the inequity, educated or not. Wherever you come from, when you're on your period, you're just a pariah to society.
Yeah.
You just have to hide away, experience what you're experiencing in secret, try not to show any emotions. And I think it's really interesting because as you don't have a choice. We can't control these hormones.
Yeah, I know.
We can't control. So it's really interesting, and it's kind of But I think that's why it's important to have discussions like this. So that at least even if you don't necessarily have the choice to opt out, like you're not gonna stop going to church just because of that. And you're not just gonna like stop being around your family. But having those discussions, I think, adds that security of knowing like, okay, I'm not crazy. Everybody else is experiencing.
I did at some point. When I remember one day I was we were walking from church and this other lady was asking me why my grandmother is not at church today, and I'm like, oh, she's on her period in my home language. So I was, oh, she's on her period. I'm like, no, you don't say that. You can't say that. Like I should try find a reason to say why she's not coming to church. Like hide the fact that she's on her period. So it's like, for me, I was like, but I did not like that. I was like, why? Why shouldn't I say it as it is? Why is it? Why must it be something? Yeah. So it was. I did not know it was period equity, but I was just asking myself, why am I not allowed to say that because she's on it?
Yes. I just wanted to say, it's very funny how I think the essence of period inequity, however we experience it, it comes back to just how much of a taboo it is. Like I think if you had to express, how you experienced it and whatever, it all comes down to the fact that just being on your period and talking about it, it is the biggest crime ever. You really don't have to talk about it.
You don't have to.
Yeah.
Wow. I can't imagine not going to church because I'm menstruating or I want to share something about myself, and because people look at it as like something that should be required. If this is something that is happening to all of us, it's a natural process. I really can't imagine that, and I think the reason as to why we are really here as change makers is to change this narrative and get back to our communities and see how we can also engage these cultural leaders or the elders for society into changing this narrative. Okay, and then I'll get to you, Y-isha. Please tell us. So, I know yesterday we were discussing, like you mentioned, you are a great feminist, and the feminist principles are very amazing when it comes to tackling menstrual injustice or period inequity. So, what do you think could be done? What do you think? Where do we get to start from? Because this is like, can I say, intergenerational issue? It's getting from parents, grandparents, and now children. So, what can we do? How can we be able to approach this?
Yeah, I think in terms of feminism, if I can start to say that. Years ago, I'll say decades ago rather, women were really fighting for, the right to vote, right to own property, right to just be single in general, and be able to exist as, an individual and be honored as an individual by constitutions all around the world. And, it was just kind of this fight for ideals. And I think in that, like you say, it's an intergenerational thing that, in those fights, it kind of became a thing of like, to make it in this world, you kind of have to hide the fact that you're a woman. And I like the fact that our generation now is getting to the fact that, hey, as much as we are feminists, we are fighting for our rights, activism, advocacy, and all that, but at the end of the day, experience of being women, not an ideal. I wouldn't say being on your period is ideal, but it's an integral part of the experience of being a woman. It's something that you can't escape, and it's a universal experience in that children as young as 8 years old start having their period. So why are we not having the discussion? And that's the thing that people want to talk about blood all day, every day. But the fact that you can exist, like we say, being able to go through your daily activities, people being able to accept that even if you blood, guys, I promise you, it's not a sin. It really is. Like, mistakes happen, things happen. It does not mean that you're a bad person, you're a demon. And so often we are demonized for that. Like you were saying, when you're expressing your emotions, then people will be like, oh, you're just hormonal, you're PMSing. And it's like, as much as, yes, I am going through the hormones, but that does not make my experience any less human. It does not invalidate my experience. And I think when it comes to feminism, going into that conversation is realizing that if you are fighting, for us to have all these rights and all these platforms and all these spaces to speak, we also have to remember to go back to the fact that, hey, we're all experiencing this. Let's start from this point first. Let's accept each other, because even women shame each other sometimes for things like, oh, why are you plotting yourself? As a young woman, you should know. But guys, it's just part of life. It's part of life. So I think, starting from that perspective, us accepting each other as women, because once we say, to be honest, guys, once we say, okay, guys, it's just a period, I think the men will start to catch on, as you've seen with most other things. We say, hey, we're human beings, and the patriarchy was like, okay, we can allow. So if we start talking about our periods openly, start talking about menstruation, education around menstrual cycles and all those things, I think it will be easier for society to accept us if we start by accepting ourselves.
Wow, thank you. I think for me, one of the things I ask people is, why should you menstruate negatively? Why shouldn't you menstruate positively? When people say that when you're menstruating, you should be, sad, weak, you get? And I think that's what we don't want. I would want to menstruate and I'm happy and I'm excited. So that I look at it as a positive way, because as women we go through different hormonal changes that make us, get to be different even when we don't want. So I think I really agree with you. It's getting to behaving the way we think that is right, and getting to discuss openly about this whole menstruation issue. So would you like to say something?
I just wanted to add on to when you talk about like positivity around periods and stuff, it goes back to just how I can only imagine if anyone was to come, especially if you're younger and aren't really confident in your politics. It's so associated with promiscuity. It's like you're happy for something that you aren't supposed to be happy about. And it goes back to what Y-isha was saying about the older generation. They also play a very important role, because it's as if we're following these social standards that they set. So because traditionally it's taboo, it means you can't be happy and excited that you're on your period. Imagine Gracious will already being kind of like coded into feeling bad for expressing that her grandmother's on her period. She had to come up with a lie. Imagine, like, the church is synonymous with the truth, but that one time that she, it was kind of like bad to say this, understand? It's as if like you're happy for something that you aren't supposed to be happy about. If you're happy that you're on your period, or you're expressing that, sometimes you're feeling confident, because you are right. It does have an effect on our moods and all of that. But sometimes it's the good, like, actually I think I'm glowing. Like, my chest area is kind of big and plump, and that's how I like it. It's as if you're promiscuous, or and those are some of the things we should, like Y-isha was saying, educating younger generation about like sexuality and stuff like that. Those are the things we should be able to encourage as well, in as much as we were talking about the bad things that come with periods, which is not invalidated. It's kind of like just trying to create that merge. But what I was just trying to say is, I can only imagine the bigger stigma that's going to come with the fact that, God, why are you so happy that you're on your period? Why are you embracing it so much? It must be because you're a promiscuous person and all of that. And it's already so difficult, because I think our cultures are so conservative. You're not supposed to embrace some of those feelings and emotions.
But I think one thing that comes with digitalization nowadays, I think that we shouldn't miss a lot, is how social media has easily normalized with things. I think we now see maybe the generation Z and the generation
It's just generational Z, and the millennials, who are, I think they're taking their power back into speaking about things. You go to platforms such as Twitter, and you would find someone post, another young girl would comment and say, have you tried taking this have you tried taking this medication, or try sleep like this. Like the remedies just come, and that alone creates a social culture to say this is actually normal. And remember, social media has everyone in it, both young and old, both male and female, non-confirming. So I think these generations have taken back that power in terms of talking positively about these and actually educating and informing other people, because that's the part where we sometimes miss. We're having those conversations as ladies, but we're saying men are not part of the conversation because they're not included in this conversation. Of course, for certain reasons. But I think things like social media and media has enabled us to take back our power and utilize it as a tool to actually inform and educate.
I think maybe to bring like a personal element to this so that people can see that if we don't address these issues now, they can lead to something else. And you can see the unintended pregnancy rate going up, they are escalating. So I was talking to my mom like a few months ago and asking her, because in year 2000 I was part of the teenage pregnancy statistics in South Africa. So I was asking her about that experience, what happened, what led to that, and she mentioned a point that back then there was a point where she was on her period and she had to go and hide because it was like they don't to beat you or do something to you. You are not supposed to be on your period. Like being on your period is like a passport to you. Now you know boys. Now you are rebellious. Now you are this and that. So she went through that alone. So Millicent touched on a good point. Yes, now we sort of like have a community that can rescue us when we are in that place of isolation. So, but back then that was not the case, and that led to for friends to give her advice, and she ended up being pregnant. And yeah.
Thank you, and Millicent, thanks for tackling that part of approaching menstruation, normalizing it, at least by 2030. And this year globally, that has been like the thing. And you mentioned that you have some menstrual products that you're making and selling. And then, so from this discussion, we can also see that we have different practices that involve menstrual inequities. From exclusion, from menstrual practices that have been like intergenerational. And there are also others that are coming. So for you as a change maker, what do you think we are not doing? And what are we not doing? I know you've talked about engaging the men, and I know people are working to engage with them, and they are also coming up on board. But what do you think really can be done to normalize menstruation by 2030? Do you think it's possible? 2030? It's just 2022, 2024.
It's actually 78 months away from now.
Oh!
Like, I think as we're saying 7 years might look like it's far, but it's actually 78 months from now. We would have wanted to end period stigma. We would have wanted to ensure that adolescent girls and young women and women have information, have the right information that they need. And we are allowing social inequalities to have ended by 2030. I think stigma that comes with menstrual health and us achieving and ending inequalities is going to need efforts from everyone. Because we have period poverty. That is a thing, and that is when you look at economies or you look at societies that are in poverty, and you hear the stories that comes from what they have to go through. Just literally every single month, they are going through these. They're using they're using mattresses. You know the inside of a mattress? Use that, it absorbs the blood, and then you have to wash it and use it again. First of all, that is not hygienic. But we don't want to have those conversations. We shy away to say period poverty is a thing. And how do we then break period poverty? Things like reusable sanitary towels in communities that are ravaged with poverty can be one of the things that you are doing. How then do you take products, sanitary products, to those girls in communities that are ravaged by poverty? And I hate the idea that poverty is in the villages. Poverty is in the towns. Poverty is in the cities. We know in the cities places where we know, that place, if you stay there, you're probably not somewhere lower in the economic forum. So if we first, inequality is going to end, and period inequality is going to end, if first of all social inequalities are ending. Healthcare, accessing healthcare. A young girl does not know, okay, if, like you had mentioned earlier, if I get an infection, what do I do? They're probably going to think I'm being promiscuous. And what do we know? Do adolescent girls and young women know what to do, how to access these services? But another thing that is ravaging us is pink tax. Taxation on sanitary towels is ridiculous. And we are seeing countries that are ending taxation on sanitary towels. In Botswana, for example, the average cost of a sanitary pad is $2. $2 for one packet of pads. One packet. And some girls use 2. Some girls use 3. But how am I expecting a 16-year-old to be purchasing a pad for $2 every single month? If you calculate how much that is, it's a lot of money. So first of all, putting policies in place to ensure that we're not taxing normal things. We're not taxing nature, because it is nature. So if we're going to end inequalities when it comes to menstrual health, we're going to look at the health inequalities, we're going to look at the social inequalities, we're going to look at the economical inequalities that have been put in place. And until we start slowly but surely putting the blocks together to ensure that, okay, stigma, we're removing stigma by first normalizing menstrual health. Just normalizing it, not feeling like there should be stigma. And that comes from educating. Does your grandfather know why you're not handing him that plate? Does your grandmother understand that this is normal conversation she should be having with you? If we educate and inform, and then we give access, that is the only way and the only channel in which we can achieve quality, or we can remove barriers of inequality when it comes to menstrual health.
This is really interesting, because as you unpack the conversation, we could hear and tell other period inequity issues that are coming up. Maybe what I wanted to know is that in your countries, do you have like a budget allocation for menstrual products or for menstrual activities or for anything related to menstruation, or this is just something that is not really widely considered?
It is not widely considered. WHO did recently release a study that just showed inequalities on menstrual health. And when it comes to, I remember 4 countries that we're trying to look into and just share information in: Kenya, Botswana, I believe Nigeria and Niger, where countries where free sanitary pad towels, or that budget that you're talking about, was only given to girls who are either orphans, or are they called OVCs? Girls who are either orphans, vulnerable children, and you question how much of the population that is. How many girls are orphans? How many girls are vulnerable girls? How many girls can't afford? I might have parents that they can't afford. What then happens to me? That is why I then resort to finding relationships with older men so that they can give me pocket money. There's so many issues. Like when we unpack it, you find out that because the government at one point lacks such things like the budget just to ensure that menstrual hygiene products are given and are freely accessed, or at least if they're cheaper, to ensure that everyone has access. But very few countries do have that budget.
Anything related to your sexual and reproductive health, you know, it's quite hard to open up. And it gets so challenging when you have someone that is really toxic or not friendly. working on you. So how is it around?
Okay, so I think in South Africa, this discussion can go on for hours when it comes to clinics and nurses.
Yeah.
Not to degrade any of the great work that a lot of nurses do in South Africa, but guys, the experience that some girls go through when they go to clinics is really difficult. Like you say, it's hard to open up to someone and tell them that you're experiencing issues with your menstruation, which is already a taboo topic.
Yeah.
You're already being told that, hey, whatever you're going through, keep it in. Now, when you get to the clinic for your monthly checkup or whatever kind of checkup you're doing, you can't even open up about that because the nurse is like, hey, time, stock, whatever, you have a certain, it's the thing will go out. Exactly. So, that access, even the closest access that we have in South Africa, I think for most of the population, is not even, even a doctor is taking you too far, let alone a gynecologist.
Yeah.
Most people, if you want access to a gynecologist, most women, even those who have the money for it, only start approaching those kinds of specialists when they have fertility issues.
Yeah.
That's just the truth. When they start trying, or they're pregnant, that's the only time.
Yeah.
So if you even try and start to have the conversation, and everybody should be visiting a gynecologist.
Yeah.
Everybody should, because not even if you're having a period, if you have the physical equipment, you should be visiting a gynecologist. But truly in South Africa, I don't think that there's access to that. And to, I won't even say, the nurses have to do better because the burden on them is already hard.
Yeah.
That's why there's gynecologists. But, the money, the expenses, and, just to go back to what you guys were saying, it's kind of a thing of systemic change that needs to happen.
Wow.
It needs to be in the system because even when we talk about menstrual products in effect, like, okay, things need to be accessible and stuff like that, or even reusable sanitary pads. But how do you reuse exactly a sanitary pad if you don't even have running water? Even a normal pad, but you don't have a dustbin. You don't have anywhere. Are you going to throw it in your backyard?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it's those kinds of things. I feel like it's so easy, for the higher ups, as you call them, or those people who sit in the corporate offices to say, yes, we have a new idea for ecological sustainability. Yes, reusable sanitary pads, and the people on social media will be like, yes, guys, do better for the for ecosystem, and the girl sitting at home who's using her 50 megabytes of data to watch this foolish person on social media tell them that you are damaging the planet by using the only thing you have access to. The easiest thing you have access to. Because for most girls, it's pads. But we know, I only discovered recently that pads are not the only option. Tampons are not the only option. There's so many other options out there, but how do you even begin to have the discussion when it's like those things are far away? Even for some people who are maybe sitting at the table, some of those options are so far away. Now imagine for the girl sitting at home who can barely get a plate of food every single night. So it's really about the systemic changes, making sure that everybody is level. Because if we're not even level in the basic terms of, having daily meal, having a roof over your head, having access to sanitation, having access to clean water, how do you even start with pads? And I think that is why the issue is often overlooked, because it's like, hey guys, you can't be talking about your periods because all this is going on. But people don't get that solving those issues is going to solve our issues as well. Yeah.
And that is why when we keep talking about that, there's so many health inequalities and the health injustice because other girls have access. Other people do have access.
Yeah.
If I can have my gynecologist cell phone number, why can't Precious have? So you find that those gaps that are put in place when it comes to access in the health systems, like you said, getting a doctor is a reach in Africa. Just getting a doctor to see you and check if you're okay is a reach in accessing menstrual health and equality.
Yes, thank you all. And honestly, what I'm learning is that because of these systemic issues, things are not said the way they are.
No.
And things are not actually observed. And I've also got to learn that people who are the targeted people are not involved. Okay? Before you give out a reusable pad, have you conducted, have you marked the area to find whether they have water? Do you know, do they know how to use these pads? Have you considered the climate change? You know, have you considered the environment? So I think for us, we can easily say things the way they are. No fear you get. You have the power. You want to take back your power. But so I'm going to get back to you, Steph, because I know you are all powerhouses. But I know you're really taking this advocacy. At what point do you think that young people should just come out and say things the way they are and get to be able to? It's like a message you think that can really encourage them and support them. It can also be a space, a platform. At what point do you think this should happen?
As early as life itself. Because and also I want to, it's not, we shouldn't target it to, because like the period experience is not a woman only issue. And I think it starts there. We think the problem only affects women or menstruating people. It affects everyone, and we should all be involved. And this is why I'm saying it should start as early as life. It is also a natural, biological thing. So there's nothing wrong with teaching someone who will never menstruate. Okay, for the purpose of this context, let's say boys about menstruation. There's nothing wrong.
I think we need to have these conversations. You know, the first time you meet someone, you want to know who they are, you want to bond. So can we also bond? Can we also like recheck ourselves, recheck the approaches, recheck the practices? And even when we are having the conversations, let them be safe conversations, let them be respectful. And I really like the approach of if something is getting to be unapproachable, let us just wake up one day and be like, no, we have to approach this thing, and get scared of ourselves, you know, because there is no way we are going to uproot menstrual or to tackle menstrual inequities when we are just so humble, so calm. We really have to use approaches that have not been working, that work and they've not been using them, or where we think that these ones are going to really work out. So thank you so much for joining me for breakfast. Thank you for coming for the breakfast. And what you've shared is really powerful. You're all stars, you're amazing, you're change makers, and please keep doing the work that you're doing. We really recognize this work. It's so much attached to you. You speak with passion, all of you. So thank you very much, and wishing you a beautiful day.
You were talking here, saying we have to like be. I feel like once you recognize your rights, you become so, I don't know. It's just something that happens in your spirit. That resilience. That it's because as I'm sitting and I'm checking, I'm like, I think I'm going to be in trouble for sharing this. I'm ready for it.
Okay. But thank you so much.
Thank you.